Call a regular meeting to order of August 10th of the City of Pearson City Council. Would you all please rise with me and recite the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all for coming this evening. If you have a cell phone, I would appreciate it if you would turn them down. Roll call. Mrs. Clark. Here. Mrs. Conley.
Here.
Mr. Groves.
Here.
Mr. Hopkins.
Here.
Mrs. Nixon. Without ill, I understand. Mr. Powell.
Here.
Mr. Hall. Here. Entertain a motion to excuse Mrs. Nixon.
Mr. Mayor, I would like to make a motion to excuse Mrs. Nixon from the meeting this evening.
Second. It's been moved and seconded to excuse Mrs. Nixon for this evening because of illness. Any discussion?
I hope she feels better.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed sign by no. Motion carried. Mrs. Nixon is excused. Public comments. This portion of the agenda. The council welcomes and encourages the public to speak during the public comment of the public hearing portion of the agenda. However, council's policy is to hear the public comment, not to act on the public comment at this time. Concerns brought before the city council during the public comment portion of the agenda will be referred to the city manager for action. If after communication with the city manager no resolution is reached, the concerns will be elevated to the mayor and then eventually to the council for action. Those citizens wishing to speak on agenda or non-agenda items will be allowed a maximum of 4 minutes each to address their concerns. This is the only time during the council meeting that citizens are allowed to address the council. Please state your name and address for the record. At this time, is there anyone wishing to address the council?
Good evening, Joe Frank, 171 3rd Street, Cedar Springs, Michigan. And I know that keeping the bees is on the agenda. And somebody were to ask me 6 years ago, should we have bees in Cedar Springs, I would have said no. But until you get to know the nature of a honeybee, and once you study it and understand them, you're less fearful of them. It's the people that don't understand them that are fearful of them. Michelle Obama, she had beehives set up at the White House. The Secret Service were freaked out about it. They're supposed to take a bullet for her, but they didn't want to get stung by a bee, and there weren't any incidents, but it's because they didn't understand them. They were afraid of them. And more people are understanding them. Lots of cities, Ann Arbor, Muskegon, Traverse City, Ypsilanti, Detroit, Holland, and Muskegon are like begging people to set up beehives in their article that was in the Muskegon Chronicle. It's good that you're bringing this up because they're selling beehive equipment at Rockford Hardware. They're selling it at the family farm. It's getting more and more popular, so it's good that it's being addressed. At Grand Valley State University, they have a beekeeping class. I was out by Ottawa area intermediate schools. It's on Port Sheldon and 31. They have beehives right on the school grounds there. And they have a class, and there's at least 4 beehives on the school grounds. It's a little too late to be, among the first, but let's not be the last to do it. Let's get on board, and I think the more understanding, I see that a lot of you studied up on it, and I appreciate that, and I thank you for doing that, and get educated about these. So I'm just here to support it and want to voice my concern. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other individuals?
Good evening, Mark Fankhauser, 91 West Muskegon Street. Mr. Mayor, council members, it is impossible to imagine human beings living without the honeybee. But the simple existence and maintenance of bee species have been under threat for many years, as Mr. Frank has already described. Bees have been closely linked and are considered important by some at all levels of the human life chain for thousands of years. The honeybee species is now the only one of its kind at our temperate latitude. Today, the honeybee is considered the third most important or productive insect or animal after cattle and swine. It pollinates approximately 80% of our crops, fruits, vegetables, flowers, and wild plants. In the grander scheme, pollination activities ensure we have the diverse range of foods and the flowers that we know and enjoy today. As we drive around our community, Commissioner or Councilmember Connolly's place, my folks' place, the flowers around my house are all there because we have pollination. So here in our own community, the subject of keeping of bees and beehives is important also. Joe and Donna Frank have embraced an age-old tradition of having a small-scale beehive set. If it had not been brought to my attention, I would not have even noticed that they keep or maintain a hive set at their property. If you drive by their home, you will not see the traditional hive stack. My family and I, including our dogs, have not even seen nor detected an increase in the presence of bees on our adjacent property. However, I will attest that we have seen a significant increase this spring and summer in the bounty of the blossoms and the flowers in and around our home. In previous years, without a local beehive, yes, we have had blossoms on our flowers, but in no way, shape, or form to the extent as of this current year. I can only speculate that this is in direct correlation to the hives on Mr. Frank's property. I have spoken directly to Mr. and Mrs. Frank regarding this matter and reviewed material from the Michigan State University and the United States Department of Agriculture. From my perspective, it would appear that Joe and Donna's beekeeping is in accordance with industry best practices and procedures. I understand that this subject is potentially up for consideration with this council. I support and recommend that Joe and Donna Frank be allowed to continue their current beekeeping model, and furthermore, that you, the council, move in a manner to support properly managed and maintained beekeeping within the city of Cedar Springs. We should be doing everything possible to ensure that we protect and enhance the ability of the honeybee to perform their important and fast-paced work. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr.
Any other individuals wishing to address the council? Donna, 1 minute.
Well, Donna Clark, 18 North Grant. I can't not just stand up here and say what a wonderful summer reading program we had. All the way to the big park party that we had cooperation. I have to say, City Manager Womack, even though he was out of town, he supported it all the way through. We had that great sidewalk chalk event, which was really repeatedly reported in the news, which was really good. And we had Mayor Jerry Hall and his wife Amy, who's also on the library board, and they popped a lot of popcorn, and they did it last year as well. And also, we had, of course, Julie Wheeler from Independent Bank has been doing it for about 15 years. So that's a lot of popcorn, and at no charge to the library, I have to say, as well. It was just amazing.
We
And
did 8 pounds of raw corn, and then Julie, I believe, did somewhere around 10.
it was
You're as fast
well,
as you
a
go.
teacher from CTA was there, and I gave her a clicker, and I said, just take this around and click every person you see. When you see a new face, just click it. And so over an hour, and the party was for 2 hours. So after about an hour and a half, she came back and she handed it to me. She said, well, here it is. It was 642 people. I can't say that I got every single person or I didn't click someone twice, but, you know, that's better than trying to guess how many people, because I never know. I never can do it. So I thought it was interesting. There were 642 people at the park, and we had 1,642 people sign up for the summer reading program, which was very interesting to me. 1,192 of them were from babies to the 12th grade. And we had 450 adults who read 1,628 books. We had 2,452 bonus tickets that were read by the kindergarten to 12th grade, which they read 13,812 and a half hours this summer, compared to 8,625 last year. And it's always been a really great program for the library, but I mean, it just went out the roof. And I took the time to count every ticket. Now, I had 10 Chinese students that were brought to me by Randy Badge needing a place to volunteer. So after they did, we pulled the weeds and cleaned the windows and went around to all the baseboards and all those things. I dumped all of those thousands of tickets out on the floor and had them go around and divide them into ticket 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 adult tickets and bonus tickets. And then I started to count them, and I got my daughter to help me. But anyway, I thought, I'm getting all the stats out of those. There were 29 summer reading programs, and we had 1,377 people. And then opening day was 1,048 people. And then with the carnival together, it brought in 3,041 people on top of the others. And there was 800 more than we had in the other years. And I want to say, our new director, David, has been a wonderful addition to our library in our city. And he and Bill and Al were out there helping us get all the water slides and the bouncy houses set up, and bringing the trough back from the Tractor Supply so we could put, I don't know how many waters there were, 600 waters or something. There were 600 ice cream sandwiches, it was 180 waters, and 8 bags of ice from Wesco. Everybody got in on it. That's what I want to say. We all did it together, and we had a lot of fun. And coming up, we're getting that water slide out again, David. We're going to have a water slide day at the library on Friday, August 18th, because we just have to do it again, and the kids love it. And then we're having an open mic that's coming up on Saturday, August the 19th. I'll put it up on camera. And then we have our traditional Read to Ride program with the Red Flannel Festival. I didn't know that Randy was going to be here tonight, but we just got that all worked up, and so I have one. Oh, not more? That's a lot. Oh, okay. Thank you. Make sure you see the post that has everybody, all of our heroes listed, and I'm really not quite done, but I just don't think that.
Thank you, Donna. Any
I've
other
done
person?
that in the past, so
Any other person?
let me know. Everybody's very quick.
Kurt Maiden, CDDT. The last part of the library aspect's being done, and that's the paving of the trail down from Main Street down around to Maple Street. Dwayne said it was about 5 weeks out, and that was about a week ago, so we're about a month out yet. This should be all done before our final festival and all that other kind of good stuff. So the final last little piece of this. So thank you for your help and support, guys.
Thank you.
Any other person wishing to address the council at this time?
Gary Need, 138 South Fifth Street. I want to present a petition here to get the city ordinance changed on trailers being plugged in. I went around I got 27 signatures as of today to people that has trailers or might not have trailers, but they might want to get a trailer, and they cannot plug them into electricity to get them ready to go camping or whatever. Mine in particular, I got mine set right up next to my deck, and I got an outside kitchen, and I like to keep the refrigerator going so kids don't have to go in and out of the house, get their drinks or whatever. And it keeps the batteries charged up and keeps the refrigerator cold, so when you do go camping, I never know where I'm going. Might go tomorrow. But I got a 27 signatures here. I'd like to present them to the council, if I may.
Yes, you would want to present them to the clerk, to enter them in the record.
Thank you. My 4 minutes isn't up yet, is it?
Can be.
Thank you.
Any other persons wishing to address the council at this time?
Mr. Mayor, we do have a neighbor in the audience. If you're ready for that.
That was my next question.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Hi, I'm Andrea Faber. I'm with Grand Valley Metro Council, and through my job with them, I participate on the West Michigan Clean Air Coalition, which runs the Clean Air Action Program for the area. And I have a short presentation on what the program is. The display, which you may have seen on your way in, is right outside the door. Just wanted to tell you just a little bit about that today. So how many people have heard the term Ozone Action or Clean Air Action Day? Is that a term most people are somewhat familiar with? The program started out as the Ozone Action Program in 1995. We announced Action Day is when ground level ozone was expected to reach or exceed the unhealthy for sensitive groups, or USG range. And we encouraged the public to take voluntary actions to reduce emissions and protect their health on those action days. And it was just a spring and summer program due to the chemistry that it takes to form ozone. It takes heat and sunlight, which in Michigan doesn't really happen for us during the winter.
2 minutes. July.
Yeah, for sure. And then in 2009, we renamed the program Clean Air Action, and we added a new pollutant, which is fine particulate matter. So now the program, instead of being just spring and summer, is now year-round because it's a different pollutant with a different chemistry, so it can be active throughout the year. And on action days, we ask people to take part in voluntary emission reduction activities. Some of the ones they're probably most familiar with are waiting to mow your lawn or refill your car. We also encourage people year-round to carpool, ride the bus. Max Transit in Holland and the Rapid offer free bus rides. We encourage people to telecommute, to work from home, to combine their errands into one trip, to keep their vehicles maintained, to avoid idling, to burn cleanly or not at all, and to conserve energy by unplugging unused appliances. We also ask people to not top off the tank or stop at the click. All right, here's a map of air quality forecast locations throughout Michigan. When an action day is called, DHE meteorologists, which are stationed in Lansing, we'll get together with other area or other meteorologists from other states to look at monitoring data as well as fronts that are coming through the area, weather patterns, and it'll determine whether or not to call an action day. So we're in Region 4 there, and we have monitors in Kent County in eastern Ottawa, which is by territory for ozone and fine particulate. We do a number of things to educate the community about Clean Air Action Days. We have a TV campaign every year. We work with meteorologists who will frequently talk about action days when they're called during their weather forecasts. We also have a TV commercial, which is an anti-idling commercial, which you may have seen. It's playing right now on TV 13, TV 8. We have a radio jingle and a radio campaign every year. We do radio interviews, and then also rotating the display along with our promotional freebies, which are out there for your taking. So feel free to grab some stuff on your way out tonight. I participate in a number of community events, such as school events, children's events, health and wellness events, and city and township events. And we have a website and a 1-800 number, which we continually promote, and then we do a survey periodically. Our last survey was done in 2016, and it showed that just about 90% of the area that we surveyed was either aware or somewhat aware of what an action day is. And here's a couple pictures. This was at a Whitecaps game. We will get concourse tables there every year and pass out freebies and information. We found that to be a really good way to reach the public. And then other places I brought the display. The airport has been a great spot to bring it there over spring break and then also around Thanksgiving. And it's been fun to see passengers waiting for their planes playing Frisbee, like by the luggage areas, and it seems to go over well there. And if you'd like to stay informed about the program, I've got tip cards out there, and you can also sign up for EnviroFlash, where you can receive email and text message notifications when an action day has been called. We have an air quality hotline, which is 1-800-656-0663, or visit our website at wmcac.org. And then the DEQ has a couple of resources as well, DEQ My Air or airnow.gov. So, any questions?
I think a lot of it, like with the people with asthmatic conditions are really familiar with ozone action days. I know when the humidity's high and pollutants are higher, I know they have breathing issues and respiratory problems.
Sure, the sensitive groups we try to watch out for are children, the elderly, anybody with heart or lung disease, and anybody who's active outdoors, and asthma would fall under the lung disease category. So we're just trying to reach out to those groups too, and as well as people who care for them or their loved ones.
And the TV stations all announce when there's an ozone action day.
They generally do if it gets to be a season where we're really busy with action days, and sometimes they won't. But for the most part, this has been a quiet summer. We've only had 3 action days, so then they're really good about it.
Any other questions?
Is this a federal program, a state program?
There are programs throughout the U.S. and Michigan. We're the West Michigan Air Quality Program. There's also one on the east side of the state that's run by SEMCOG, which is another metropolitan planning organization. We receive a combination of federal and local funding for it.
Mr. Mayor, can I ask one question? Is it getting better? Is it getting worse? Or is it staying about the same?
Air quality over time is getting better. It's something that most people are really aware of because the standard for ozone has gone down a number of times over the last 20 years. So we may see more action days issued now, but the air is cleaner than it is in the 80s. It's just that it's like a limbo bar.
Right.
So they keep lowering it, which means that there's less allowable ozone in the air for it to be considered safe.
Sure. So
So-
I'm old,
Oh.
and I remember in the 70s when, particularly over in Muskegon, when it would come across the lake from
Yeah, well, they were.
Yeah.
terrible.
Yeah, it is continually getting cleaner. Older fleets are turning over more and more, so we have newer cars with newer, cleaner engines on the road, which is helpful.
One time when they were going to require auto emission testing for Michigan, they documented that most contaminant or pollution was coming from the southwest.
Yeah, a lot of the issues that we have in our area, especially right along the lake shore with Holland and Muskegon, they get hit hard really with ozone that's transported from Chicago, Gary, Indiana, which makes it,
Gladys,
I have one question,
Yeah.
if I could. I know it's based on the size of the areas, we do District 4. Relatively few counties in number. Are those generated by population or potential problems with ozone? I've always heard how, coming from the southwest, it affects the southwest corner of the state more.
Yeah, I'm not really involved in monitor placement. I'm not sure exactly how they determine those locations. I know it's been a point of contention because some of the monitors, I think the one in Holland is right on the lake shore, so it makes it harder for people who live there for their actions to make a bigger contribution to air quality when the monitor is that close to the lake shore. We have 3 right now for ozone in the area that we monitor, which is kind of eastern Ottawa County. It's the area we're responsible for, and then 2 for fine particulate. But I'm not sure exactly what goes into the number and the placement.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Thank you.
Welcome.
For your presentation. Moving on, item 4, public hearing. I believe we have none. We have no public hearings this evening.
Wasn't there a thing from the planning commission make it over? Or no?
Nope, we got 2.
Okay.
Okay, item 5, adoption of the agenda.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Mr. Womack, is there any additions or corrections or?
There were a couple of late submissions, you'll see those marked on your agenda. But I don't think there's anything that's dire necessity that needs to be acted upon tonight.
So Jay and Carol.
Yeah, I think, well, I know that J and K from the consent agenda were late submissions. I believe C under discussion items was a late addition. And I think K was a late addition under action items.
Okay, but nothing new beyond what's presented here?
No.
Okay.
Duly
The
noted.
motion I made was for what's presented.
Thank you. Any, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? A roll call vote. Mr. Clark? Yes. Ms. Conley?
Yes.
Mr. Gross?
Yes.
Mr. Hopkins?
Yes.
Mrs. Powell?
Yes.
Ms. Small votes yes. Adoption of the agenda. Consent agenda. We have approval of the minutes of the regular July 13th. I think we need to do one by one on these, do we not, Mr. Momack? We have a motion issues in here? Or do you want to do a blanket?
I mean, council can remove any one of those if it
Yeah,
wishes
you
to.
could. I think part of the point of a consent agenda is to do it all at once, unless
Yep.
you don't want it.
If council knows I don't put anything on there that I think would be controversial in any way.
Absolutely. Does council have any concerns or questions before we approve the
I
consent?
have two questions, if I may.
Okay?
Okay, general fund assignment, fund balance, late submittal. Is that pretty much a standard event?
Yes.
Okay.
Would you like an explanation of what's being done with it?
Sometimes I trust, but yes, we probably should have.
Oh, I appreciate that.
Okay.
Ms. Dalton?
I would like to, yes, explain to us.
If you remember, a couple months ago, we created some new assigned account numbers for the turnout gear, the county fire truck. There was money budgeted in the past and reserved for these items, but it wasn't clearly identified on the balance sheet. So we created those. What we're doing now is just adding this year's budgeted amounts to those categories.
Okay.
I think I put previously, current year, new total on the
Mr.
bottom.
Mayor, just to clarify, so what you're doing is what we asked you to do.
Correct.
That you
Yep.
wouldn't have done before we asked you
Yep.
to do it.
When you assign money or restrict it or designate it, we need council approval to do that. So this is for the fiscal year ending June 30. I couldn't bring it to you in July because you need time to review.
And you weren't clairvoyant to know
Correct.
that we would
Yep.
want us to do these things.
Yep. But this is needed for the auditors.
Sure.
The audit starts the end of the month, so.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you for making that all work.
For the
And
public
I have
knowledge.
a question on K also.
Go ahead.
Is that something that cannot wait until the next meeting?
At this point, it's a first reading,
So
so
that's what I'm saying.
I-
We're part of the consent agenda, and that's fine if it's just a reading.
yeah, sure. At this point, what I'm doing is I'm putting first readings of community event applications as a consent agenda item so that council can review it on their own time. I am continuing to work with the Red Flannel Festival to make sure it's finalized for your next meeting.
Hey, everybody familiar with what's going to happen here in the consent agenda? What's the will of council?
Mr. Mayor, make a motion to the consent agenda as possible, or presented. Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. Any further discussion or any questions on items on the consent agenda? Hearing none, roll call vote. Mr. Hopkins?
Yes.
Mr. Gross?
Yes.
Mrs. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Clark?
Yes.
Ms. Conley?
Yes.
Mr. Hall votes yes, motion carried. Consent agenda is approved. Moving on to item 7, discussion items. Mr. Womack?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, this is I guess a project that the city clerk has been working on for us. The city clerk and the city finance director went upstairs and cleaned up quite a bit up there. We have got a lot of old electronic items, old computers, defunct monitors and whatnot. So I asked them to look into a recycling program for us, and these are 3 of the quotes that she sought out for us. I believe, and she correct me if I'm wrong, letter C, the Value City Recycling was determined to be the best option for us. So this was originally for the city government with the stuff we have upstairs. But I think the base rate covers the entire truck, whether it's our stuff or community members' stuff. So we thought that we presented to council as an option for having I guess, electronic recycling day here in the back of City Hall.
Great idea.
But it would cost $500 to $750, and any CRT monitors that would be brought would have to be paid for out of pocket by the citizen at their own cost. Or you could choose A or B as well. Or you could choose D, none of the above. Just thought I'd bring it to you for discussion, and I guess a motion if you guys feel comfortable, or I can take care of it administratively.
Which one of these, A, B, or C, would you recommend that we go with if we do?
I believe my recommendation and the clerk's recommendation would be C, Delaware City Recycling.
Okay, what's the will of the council?
What are CRTs?
CRTs are the big, old, TV monitors and computer monitors that weigh 40 pounds, not the flat screen ones.
The big screen wheel, yeah, so TV. It's probably,
That was my question. So anybody in town that has electronics can toss them in there?
That would be our intention, yeah.
And there'd be, what was the time frame? Like, would we give them a week or?
I think it would be a one-day event, but this is something the clerk's been working on, not me. I'd love to hear from the city clerk.
That'd be amazing.
Mrs. Nolan, would you enlighten us?
So the 3 different quotes I got were for one-day events. That's something that they'll bring in a truck for. You can load on your electronics. CRTVs do cost the recycling centers quite a bit of money to recycle, so that's why they charge for those. They're not like any other electronic. They have special parts that require special means of recycling. The Kent County also offers a free option at the 14-mile location for electronics. This would be to the community's benefit if you chose to do this. My recommendation would be to designate where the funds would be coming from if you chose to provide this for the community.
Did they give you a price on what a CRT would cost, a ballpark?
They do not. They do it by the pound, and it's 35 cents. I think it's 35 or...
This was ton.
It said all electronic, 10 cents per pound.
Yep, that was for the advanced tech recycling. So each one is a little bit different.
Okay.
Each company has their own price that they charge, but
If we were to do this, we would have to have a date, and then basically if they have a dollar amount for the CRT, so that people aren't surprised.
yep. They do these events all over, so they have an idea of a ballpark on how much they think it will cost to run a short, 4 or 5 hour event. And those were the quotes that I received was for the 4 or 5 hour.
One year past, they had one set up here in the back parking lot behind City Hall.
Yeah.
I've done a couple years for when Chris Burns was here. I can't remember who it was. I want to think that he came and set up first. I was trying to, done it for Earth Day.
Yep. Kent County used to do this for free. They no longer offer that.
Services don't want to
Their service is offered at their current location, so individuals can still bring their electronics there. They just don't have the trailer and equipment provided for free for the communities any longer.
Any further questions on Mr. Newland?
So it says CRT price per pound. So is somebody going to be out there weighing them, or how do you know?
Yes, they do that.
Oh,
Any other questions on Mr. Newland before we move on?
How will we advertise this so that we really get the word out to the public?
My suggestion would be Facebook, city website, utilizing the local newspapers. We can also add it onto the water
Public
bill.
service announcements?
Yeah.
Public service announcements?
They don't have that.
You can just,
Yeah, good idea.
let's say, you on Facebook, you do a $10 boost on it. I want people to see it and necessarily just who follows it.
The real question I have in mind is which are city residents only.
You have to show your ID.
Yeah, the city residents are the ones who fund us,
Yep.
but I would recommend it be city citizens only.
Are we going to police that?
So they would in the drop off site.
So do you have to, but that would be do you have to bring
Perfect.
driver's license with you?
I would assume that'd be the easiest way to verify.
The townships have their cleanup days, and what they do there, you must have a driver's license for the residence address within that township. And that would be simple for our people there to do. You need a driver's license, a city address. Why would you live? It's not costing us anymore.
We're not really a long line, but, would you limit just the citizens, or would you limit to maybe some of the schools or churches or whatever that may have some sitting around that are within our city limits? They would be eligible.
Well, they'd be eligible.
But they may not be citizens. People run.
That's true if you're talking about a driver's license.
Well, so are we also talking about businesses now as well?
So, there's a lot of businesses on which pay taxes in this town.
Yeah.
I would think everybody should be able to, why not? Why do it? Oh, the city truck's not big enough?
Well,
If I may, they do charge different rates for different size trucks. So if you go with a semi, it's going to increase that base cost rate. But if you go with just a, 24-foot trailer or, something like that, they base it off from that.
This last company, the third company we're considering, did they list their different prices? I didn't see that.
No, they only gave me the price for what they would consider a box truck.
Is there concern, I guess now I'm piggybacking off of Dan, is there concern that you might overfill that if you let too many people?
If we overfill it, then the charge would be for them to come back out on another day to...
Right, but I'm saying, do we think that's a possibility?
We would have to pick the fee up.
Right, but do we think it's a possibility? Like, I'm
It's
trying
hard
to
to
remember
say.
from the day that we did, I did recycling, I dropped off an old television the day,
Okay.
what was that, 5 years ago?
There's a lot of thought needs to go into this before we make the decision, so.
I'm just trying to think of how busy it was.
A truck that is 14 feet, 16 feet,
Sure.
how much it would pack in. They're making money. They're not doing their money to the part. I mean, they're gonna recycle this stuff and get the gold and silver and whatever other metals in there. Plus our people. So it's not like, they're making farming at all. They're happy to do whatever they do for that.
Mr. Clark, it seems like your implication is that he wants to bring it back to council in a month, but this is one of those
Yeah, but-
situations that shouldn't be this complicated. I guess what I'm looking for is some policy directive, whether this is a good idea or a bad idea. Because what I'm hearing from Ms. Newland is, we'll fill up the truck. At that point, sorry, Charlie, we're done for today. But it's something we can do for the citizens that doesn't cost that much money. So if council would like us to do that, it would be nice for you to tell us.
Would you like a straw poll?
Sure.
Okay, I think everybody's in consensus, they'd like more information and.
No, I-
The next one.
I was just wondering where our money is coming from. We have a lot of budget.
Mrs. Falcon will have to figure that one.
Okay. I'm for it.
Well, since Molly's not here, it can come out of her annual leave.
I don't think that covers much. We're not looking for dump.
Okay, as well we'll do, if you could get us some information, and I'm thinking if we hire the box truck to come here when it's full, we're done.
First come, first served. So they can give us an idea of our size, how much stuff they normally get.
Next year, we can expand it if we need to. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Item D.
So this came about in discussions with Red Flannel Festival, the brewery, the Chamber of Commerce. In looking at the city ordinances, I don't see any permission in those ordinances to allow the community event applicants to allow their own temporary businesses. So under city ordinances, all temporary businesses operating within the city have to receive a city permit. And to do so, they have to come to City Hall, pay City Hall an application fee, and provide us with a large amount of information. Now, for events like the Chamber of Commerce, Mr. Hopkins can correct me if I'm wrong, but 30, 40, 50 different vendors that are operating on our sidewalks. Same thing with the Red Flannel Festival. They have a large number, the farmers market as well. And so it can be a huge burden on City Hall to manage that. What I'm proposing with this resolution is for at least temporarily, we will allow the applicant themselves to manage the temporary businesses, which is what they've been doing all along anyways.
Sure.
But it gives them and myself legal authority to permit that. We will then follow it up when we can to make sure that it is legal and within our ordinances that we've codified it. But at this time, this just provides me the legal authority to permit what's already occurred.
side note on that, we have this ordinance on the books, and we require any peddler to come in here and get it, and by us not enforcing this on the other units, kind of makes a bad situation. So I've asked this Romex to put together some language to see with the.
So currently you're not doing this for those
No.
communications?
We have not addressed that, so.
So Red Flannel has their events or
Seems
Can't
they have-
have-
Yep.
nothing is given or received from the other vendors?
We've never asked, so now we will. And then they will keep a record of it, and if we need it, then we can request it and get it. That's
So
about
they'll be on top of what they're already, they'll be.
Well, what's been occurring is, especially with Red Flannel Festival, they accept a fee for, allowing the person or group to do temporary business. I don't see any reason to make that change for the time being, because if they're going to be doing all the work that I'm requiring of them, they should be able to, take that for their administrative costs, which is the same thing we would be doing if we were accepting, I think it's $35 to cover our administrative costs. Now, this is just a temporary measure to get us through the Red Flannel Festival and chamber events for this year, and I hope to soon have it codified in our own ordinances.
Yeah, Red Flannel Festival's got about hundreds.
That way it covers us if
I
there's
mean,
any
I can't
problem.
even, when you think about stuff like the art show, the craft show,
So,
the number-
the council's kind of consensus, everyone agrees?
city property,
Yeah. Mr. Hopkins?
city property.
Do you agree? We need to, everybody in consensus?
Now, if council wants to, they can, I guess, motion to approve this resolution at this time, but I put it as a discussion item, because this is the first time you are seeing it. And we can take this up in September, because I don't think we have any significant events happening between now and then that this would affect. But it's council's decision.
What's the will of the council?
I'm fine with September. Let people hear about it, understand what we're doing.
September it is.
Thank you,
We'll
Mr.
bring
Mayor.
it back in September.
Mr. Mayor, can I ask a question? Just to clarify, so this will be added on as a thing that can be requested for any community event?
Correct.
I am looking at some of the policies that are, so part of the problem is the community event application is not codified within our ordinances either.
Right.
That's something that the council came up on its own as a policy.
Right.
So I have these ordinances which now conflict with policy.
Right.
I'm trying to bring those two together.
We talked a while ago about how they don't speak nicely
Yeah,
to
that's
each
Sure.
what
other.
we're doing.
And so, I'm sorry, so there are some things I'm working on, this is one of them.
Okay, but I just wanted to make sure I thought I understood this correctly, that the end goal is that if you apply for a community event, that this is one of the things that you could request.
Eventually, that's my intention. Yeah.
Okay. That's where we're headed.
Keep us legal with our own ordinance.
Absolutely. I'm just trying to, and it makes sense, because it's, again, it's that whole construct of why do we have a community event? It's to be able to create these umbrella kind of things that make it more streamlined.
Mr. Mayor, if I could, I just want to get straight. It's not for any community event. It's for any community event that has vendors coming in to sell.
Well, this would be part of the process. They'd have to request permission to have this policy be applied to them as part of their vendors. Now, I would imagine if you're a community event and you have vendors, you're going to ask for this permission.
Right.
Isn't there a spot on the community event
What was that?
form now saying that?
I don't think there is.
I don't think so.
Well, if there is,
And
we'll.
even if there is, it's still counter to your ordinances as they are.
Okay. I think we'll get more information on this next month. Everybody happy with that?
And, yeah,
How do you think the chamber feels about this idea?
I was just still allowed to happen, fine, it's just made it illegal. I could swear there's a spot in the application where you check if you're gonna have vendors.
Well, but the policy of council does not supersede the ordinances of the city.
There lies the problem.
And even if it does say that, which I don't remember if it does or not, that doesn't signify that they have to get vendor information, tax information, a statement of whether they have criminal record, these things that are normally part of the city's temporary business application.
food
So
licenses.
we're giving them, if what you're saying is correct, under the community event application, we're basically whitewashing all the requirements that we use to keep citizens safe, which I'm not okay with.
Okay, moving on to item C.
All right. So the current purchasing policy of the city requires that any purchase that is $5,000 or more requires a. Let's see, I don't have it up in front of me.
It raises the limit for your purchasing in 3 vendors.
Yeah, I apologize. I thought I had it up on it tonight. There we go, purchasing guidelines. Okay, so anything over $5,001 requires a competitive bidding process. The thing about competitive bidding processes is that they're extremely difficult to manage. They take a long time, and I don't necessarily believe that they're any better than the purchase order and pre-quotation system, which we normally use for anything between $500 and $5,000. So on top of that, I did some looking around, and most communities have their limit at between 15 and 20,000. And just with the way goods have gone, I think this policy is from 2004. So in the last 13 years, things got more expensive. It would just make it a little bit easier on the city to get some of its work done if we increase that limit. Now, obviously, anytime we do something that's less than $5,000, we get good competitive quotes. We bring it to council. Council reviews it and determines whether it's a good thing to do and whether it's a good quote. So you're preserving your power. We're just increasing the limit by which the extra work has to go into it. And I propose 20,000, but I think any amount greater than 5,000 would be a win to the city.
Works for me.
What's the will of the council?
Well, right now this is a discussion item, correct?
It is, but similar to the last item, if council so chose, I guess they could make a motion. I put it as a discussion item at this time because it's the first time you're seeing it.
Mr. Mayor, can I ask a question?
Sure. Read.
A really long time ago, before you, I had asked for some language on a purchasing policy that would give preference to local businesses.
There is a local preference part of the purchasing policy. I think it says if a local vendor is within 10%.
Okay.
But
Because that was going to be one of my questions of how does that apply to this?
well, we almost always go with local vendors no matter what. All 3 of our quotes from the most recent projects we've done all come from local vendors. I think the local vendor thing is for the higher dollar amount, above 5,000 now or 20,000 in the future. But yeah, that's
Okay.
something that we certainly would apply if it
Okay,
came up.
that was my question.
I think the reason why she's asking that, so we had one time before that came about where a local business person lost out on a bid over $40.
Because we didn't have a policy that said we take local preference. We had a
Sure.
policy that said we're supposed to take the lowest bidder.
Yeah, no, there is a local preference. I could make that available to council if you'd like.
I think that was brought out after.
Well, I then said, could we get some language on that? So-
Yes, sir.
So will this affect the situation with, for example, with the water treatment plant, where they have certain proprietary companies that they don't go out for 3 bids? They have one company that they work with, and that's it. Is this going to affect that process?
Sure, and so there's also a part of the purchasing policy that speaks about if you only have one vendor that's available to you and/or professional services. I'm not required to use any particular professional service based on price alone, because there are some people out there who may be cheap, but they can't get the job done. So, and I actually thought that same exact thing when I saw those quotes for the wastewater treatment plant. And I spoke with them at length about this because I don't like proprietary stuff, but that's the whole point of proprietary, right? You can't do anything about it. He says that there are other options, but it actually comes out to be significantly more expensive and doesn't work as well.
We I think we all know this now,
Yeah.
the water treatment plant.
What's, council? You wanna send it next month or move?
I don't have a problem moving on it today.
I think you then make a motion to approve it.
I would entertain a motion to that effect, Mr. Gross.
I'd like to make a motion to amend our guidelines for purchasing to provide it for,
What the city manager provided.
right, city manager provided, up to, what, 20,000?
Correct.
$20,000.
And move.
I'll second that motion.
It's been moved and seconded to raise the purchasing policy guideline pursuant to the limit increase.
Do we need to enact policy 12? No?
How is that?
Well, I guess we're not spending money.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll do a roll call. Mr. Clark?
Yes.
Ms. Conlon?
Yes.
Mr. Gross?
Yes.
Mr. Hopkins?
Yes.
Ms. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Hall votes yes, motion carries.
Thank you. Mr. Hall, Mr. Mayor, I apologize. You'll see under C, subpart A, federal procurement language, that's also required by our auditors and will be presented to you guys next month.
Thank you.
Great. Okay, moving, any further discussion or talk on discussion items? If not, moving on to action items. A, Mr. Womack.
As council is well aware, and I believe some of the public is concerned, the beekeeping has been a topic we've been discussing here at City Council for a while now. I present to you three things today. The general accepted agricultural management practices for beekeeping and apiary management, which is a mouthful. Those are the, I guess, state level guidelines for the best practices for beekeeping. I wanted to present that to council just so that we could see where some of the language comes from when you get down to C, which would be my draft ordinance. B, the Traverse City beekeeping ordinance. Councilor Powell and I have been working on this together. She seems rather interested in it. She reviewed a number of ordinances from around the state. She took a liking to the Traverse City ordinance, which I looked at, reviewed, and presented to you as well. You have also received a paper copy of the honey beekeeping application, and now I think this is a step further than where we're at today. This just wasn't available to me. The website, the Traverse City website was broken, and so we had this sent to us, I believe, by the clerk today. So just to give you some more language to look at in the future, but for the time being, we need to address whether we want to allow this, and if we do want to allow this, what ordinance we want to look at adopting. Now, the Traverse City ordinance, like all ordinances, were not written by me, so I don't, necessarily love them. But I did write the draft ordinance C, which is similar to the one I presented to you guys as part of the chicken keeping ordinances. I do put in a lot of the, GAAMP guidelines into there. And it also adopts a lot of what the, what the local courts have ruled upon in this kind of stuff. Yeah. So just to give you some background on why I wrote it the way I wrote it, my draft ordinance, there was and this is more from the chicken stuff than the beef stuff. There was a local community that allowed chickens, and it was just carte blanche, you want chickens, have chickens. And then the next city over says, well, that's okay, but we want the neighbors to have some input. So they added language that says, well, we got to contact the neighbors first before you can have the chickens. Well, what was happening is the neighbors would come and say yes or no, and the city would allow or deny purely based on what the neighbors said.
And that's
Well,
illegal.
that's illegal. So I'm taking into account what precedent has said, but I still find it valuable for the next door neighbor to have some say. And so I think it's appropriate for one of our public bodies, I chose the Planning Commission, to hear these permits and to weigh all the things that might go, towards somebody having bees or not. How big is the yard? Do the neighbors think it's a good idea or bad idea? Do they agree to follow the GAAMP guidelines, et cetera, et cetera? And weigh all those factors together. So you don't allow the neighbors to have a veto, but it's a factor that would be considered.
But just to clarify, it would be a case-by-case basis?
Correct.
There's no universal, like, if you're this big, you can have this hive or this...
Well, I think I would like, so following the GAMP, it said that there is basically no minimum size for your yard. Now, I don't agree with that personally, but I was trying to follow the GAMP because that is the, overarching guidelines. If I was to draft it upon, what I think is appropriate, I would have a minimum size for the yard. There are some very postage stamp sized yards, and I don't think it's appropriate to have 1 million bees there.
Right. More what I was saying is, couldn't we have a blanket one that if your yard exceeds this size, this distance from whatever, you could pay $25, fill out this form, and you could have it. You would only need to come to Planning Commission if you didn't meet those requirements.
Sure, we could do that, but then you don't take into account the human element. The scenario that was brought to me was, well, what if a next door neighbor kid is allergic to bees and would die if stung? Now, I'd like to think that the Planning Commission would weigh that as a factor as to whether they should allow bees there or not. Or if, what if the applicant is just well known not to follow the city ordinances in general? But then they're going to promise to, follow the bee ordinance. There's just a lot that can be weighed in these types of things.
So the planning commission is going to be saying yea or nay, do they get to have say on the ordinance?
Yeah, that's their
that's their job.
You have to go back to them for review.
Yeah, at the end of the day, whether we do it per or we do it blanket, that's the Planning Commission's job.
I guess I should say at this point, I present to you these options,
Yeah.
but I don't think it's appropriate to vote on them at this point.
Right.
What I want is some acknowledgement of whether this is something we want to do.
Consensus from the council, if we're in favor of it, we'll send it, have him draft some language and send it to the Planning Commission, and we'll go from there.
I think including the neighbor's opinion is important. And I think that we ought to have bees in town if we can work that out.
I think we're all in agreement that these are good. We will allow them.
Yeah, oh yeah, no, I've read several books.
I would say that, have Mr. Womack draft up some language and we'll present it to the Planning Commission and see where it
More
goes.
language, or
Present what we have and let them come up with a language.
so I'll present it to the Planning Commission, and we'll work on it, and then we'll present a copy to council for their approval.
See, Ms. Rank, we have the steps, because it's an ordinance change, we have certain hoops we have to go through, and the first step would be go to the Planning Commission, let them put their language together, and then they change or modify it, then I believe we have to have a special hearing for it, and then we would come to the council for final, so you're looking probably at about 3 months.
Okay, well,
Moving at the speed of government.
if I may add to that, Mayor Hall.
Sure.
There's no sense going to the planning commission first if it comes back here to this board, and this board is going to say, no, they're not going to accept what they present. So therefore, the route that's gone here is exactly the way it should go.
Yep.
You now know if something comes back from the planning commission that's workable, you know where we stand.
We can go from there. Okay, everybody all set on the keeping of bees?
Do we know other folks in town, I know there are, should we be
Preparing them? Nobody else has came forward.
Should we not be preparing them, if we know what they are, where
I'm
they
sure
are?
they're aware, we're discussing it, some of them are, maybe not, but.
There's a big one this year. Oh, my.
We'll have to deal with that when, the ordinance, once they're allowed, they would have to come forward